ain't been no competition for the player. Working all day long, this repetition got my weight up. Pumping like a piston, I can hear him yelling, wait up. Whole world I've been lifting, plot is thickening, I stay up. You don't know what it cost me. Now I'm chilling in the penthouse, living lofty. Pray before you cross me. Shut up while I'm talking. While I run up stocks, you all on my IG stalking. Man, get out my face. Keep on stepping to a king, yo, you bound to catch a fade. Hope you live to see tomorrow. It ain't had to be that way. Go ahead and try to plead your case. I'm just trying to feed a face. Got my family and my crew. I'm just trying to keep it straight. Name your price and we inflated. We came here from out of state. Landlord and this eviction got you feeling out of place. Way back was poverty stricken, now I kick it with the greats. Call it what you wanna call it, but I know it's fake. I really am a diamond from the dirt. It was really perfect timing in a blur. Wrote the record in the curse. Off the record, I had no one to console me when it hurts. For what it's worth, the glass is half full. I'm foolish, guess you were right. Doubted my whole life, but that all changes tonight. The price is going up, it ain't what it was in the past. Huh, shoot, it's your last laugh. You in danger, danger, danger. Got revenge in my eyes, nah, you in danger, danger, danger. I'll get even when I beat the odds, you in danger, danger, danger. Man, come on, it ain't no surprise. Hard to look me in the eyes when I feel anger. Who am I? Ha, danger. Got the recipe, ain't really hard to re-up. Ay, heroes in my city, yeah, they need us. They stop calling me soon as I put my feet up. They all know I'm dangerous, I'm always down to tee up. Like a party out in Boston, all that talking is exhausting. I've been swimming in my profits, better come to me with caution. Pity you, so I don't mind you. You had to front the city just so they could get behind you. Man, that's a shame. I feel more and more strange when I see what I became. All this power, all the money, guess it come with all the fame. When I look back in the mirror, I'm the only one to blame. What a shame. Put my blood, sweat, and tears all in the game. Too much love for my city, I'm just here to play my part. Way too many lost souls, we just don't know where to start. Find my way out through the art, I'll do whatever it takes. Call it what you want to call it, but I know it's fake. I really am a diamond from the dirt. It was really perfect timing in a blur. Wrote the record in the curse. Off the record, I had no one to console me when it hurts. For what it's worth, the glass is half full. I'm foolish, guess you were right. Doubted my whole life, but that all changes tonight. The price is going up, it ain't what it was in the past. Huh, shoot, it's your last laugh. You in danger, danger, danger. Got revenge in my eyes, nah, you in danger, danger, danger. I'll get even when I beat the odds, you in danger, danger, danger. Man, come on, it ain't no surprise. Hard to look me in the eyes when I feel anger. Who am I? Ha, danger, dangerous.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal, Jake, and we're talking about an oligarch crime spree today. Pretty much the through line I see with most of the crime, although admittedly not all, certainly not with our first story, is that oligarchs are involved. I don't like it. I don't like them. I don't like that there is a small group of ultra-rich layabouts that are deciding who the winners and losers in the criminal justice system are in the U.S. Not a fan. So we're going to talk about it. How are you doing? Let's say hi to the gang. I do believe I saw AC. Hello, my friend. Wicked Foxy Dragon. Good to see you. Aaron W. Hello. Saucy Seawitch. Hello. Apparently, Pornhub, according to Saucy Seawitch, is out in Texas, and Matt Walsh is excited about that. Oh boy. Let's find out. Pornhub, Texas. Pornhub cuts off access to site in Texas over age verification law. People living in Texas. This is according to KXAN. People living in... Well, wait a minute. I can pull it up right now. Talk about this. Why not? Diddly-doo. Doodly-doodly-doo. That's me vamping. Almost got it. Here we are. Beautiful. Dut. Here it is. KXAN. Will Dupree wrote this story. People living in Texas can no longer log into and watch vidges on Pornhub because the popular adult entertainment website cut off access to the state over an objection to its age verification law. In a lengthy message posted on Thursday, the site explained its decision to completely disable access to Texas and slammed the law in question as ineffective, haphazard, and dangerous. House Bill 1181, which went into effect on September 1st last year, requires age verification measures to protect minors from being exposed to obscene materials. Interesting. I think this is going to come down to what those measures are. Not only will it not actually protect children, the Pornhub message read, but it will also inevitably reduce content creators' ability to post and distribute legal adult content and directly impact their ability to share the artistic messages they want to convey with it. Pornhub joined a federal lawsuit against Texas leaders last summer alongside a coalition of other adult sites. They sought to block the enforcement of this new law that would require users to send their government-issued identification to adult websites. In other words, Texas now wanting to say it's not enough just for you to click a box saying, I am over 18, I would like to watch this pornography, please. Because it is Texas, and therefore run by Republicans, and therefore not interested in the actual protection of people's privacy or their rights or any of that stuff. It is a law that forces you to tell the government what pornography you're watching. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that law, and good for Pornhub for being willing to turn down a couple of bucks for what's right, for the greater good. It's also on the list of things I care about. Maybe number 574. It's way down there. Way down there. And admittedly, this is where liberty dies. There's a poem that I read recently. What the hell? I'll read it to you now. By Vinay Krishnan, and it's called There's Laundry to Do and Genocide to Stop. We pull that up. I haven't even got to the stories today, but I'm in a mood. I want to share that with you. There's laundry to do and genocide to stop. I have to eat better and also avoid a plague. My rent went up $150. I'll need to pick up more shifts. 20 people died in Rafah this morning, and every major news outlet is stretching the limits of passive voice to suggest whole families may have leaped through the air at missiles that otherwise had the right of way. I just got a notification that my student loan payments are starting up again and my phone isn't charged. My cousin got COVID for a fourth time and can no longer work or walk or even feed himself. The person across from me on the L train seems to fashion themselves a punk rock revolutionary, and they're not wearing a face mask, and that's the kind of cognitive dissonance that makes me want to steal batteries. Fascists keep winning primaries for both parties, and I think I gained a few pounds. The CDC just announced that there are no more speed limits on highways, and I think this Ativan is finally hitting. The NYPD farmers market only sells bad apples. Have you heard that one? Listen, it's warm today, too warm for March. But I don't have time to think through the implications because there's laundry to do and a genocide to stop. Perfectly captures what it feels like to pay attention with any degree of seriousness to the events of the world today. Our own lives haven't stopped their relentless grind. And yet, there's a genocide to stop. I understand the feeling. 215 graves found outside a Mississippi jail. Mass murder. Basically, a police department behaving like a serial killer. That was discovered this year. I've had it in my notes to talk about the whole week. Haven't got there yet. The 215 graves. Because there's laundry to do and a genocide to stop. Hell of a time to be alive. Well, let's get to the stories that I did have for today. Let's start with what I do believe is genuinely the most important. Simply because it is the most dangerous. And it's indicative of the problem as a whole. Also, I did put a what you can do for this, and I'm going to tell you up front, don't worry about it. I'll explain why in a moment. For this one, almost as a matter of habit, I put a what you can do, even though it deals with Trump and the courts. Now, normally, we've been hands off in that regard, because once things get to the courts, you know, it doesn't help us to try to interfere. It actually hurts things. In this case, however, I was feeling extra petty. So I'll point out that the what you can do of this whole story is to call Merrick Garland a bum. It's not going to help anything. It can't retroactively make him have done a better job. It's a waste of your time and energy. It'll just make me feel better. I just don't like Merrick Garland, and I want him to feel worse as a person. It's petty. It's pointless. This is the only one that is true of, but it is the case, and I want you to be aware of it at the very least. Here's the deal. Trump has yet to hand over all the classified documents. This is from a couple days back. Incredible. It's a story by Tori Otten in the New Republic. Look who Trump may have given classified info to now. A former Mar-a-Lago employee has revealed that Donald Trump shared information on the classified documents he kept after leaving the presidency with anyone he felt like. Brian Butler, who worked for Trump for 20 years, shared the explosive information with CNN's Caitlin Collins Monday night. When Trump was indicted for keeping classified documents at his Florida resort, Butler was identified in the indictment as Trump Employee 5. Butler has not been charged. At one point, Collins asked Butler if he ever saw Trump carelessly throwing around national security information. Butler said the most egregious instance he saw was right after Trump met with Australian billionaire Anthony Pratt. The oligarchs throughout the world, I feel, are the enemy. If people are describing your wealth and it starts with a B, enemy. Unless they are actively fighting to undo their own power, enemy. Pratt, a cardboard and recycling company CEO, is the third richest man in Australia. The news program 60 Minutes Australia reported in October that it had obtained audio recordings of Pratt describing his extraordinary dealings with Trump. During one conversation, Trump allegedly told Pratt two highly classified details about U.S. nuclear submarines. Let me go back and say that again. The former president was running his mouth about how U.S. nuclear subs work. I will point out that Russia was recently bragging about how their nuclear subs were better than our nuclear subs. Isn't that interesting? Now, I don't know if that's true. In fact, I doubt very much that you would fare much better on a Russian sub of any build than you would on Titanic 3. But I do believe that Russia was running their mouths about this because general knowledge of U.S. nuclear capability was out and about. Trump allegedly told about details about told Pratt details about U.S. nuclear submarines, how many nuclear warhead each sub carried, and how close a vessel could get to a Russian sub before it was detected. Now to get that information, the Russians don't need to pressure Trump or any American. All they need is to get Pratt drunk. Pratt reportedly shared that information with about 45 other people. Although he has not been charged with wrongdoing in the case, he was interviewed twice by special counsel Jack Smith, who has led the probe into Trump's actions. Butler provided more details on Monday on Pratt's exchange with Trump, which occurred in the first half of 2021. He finishes his meeting with the former president, gets in the car, and his chief of staff says, "How did the meeting go?" Pratt just says, "He told me, and it would be U.S. military classified information." What he told him about Russian submarines and U.S. submarines, Butler said. But Butler said that Pratt had raised red flags to him years before that meeting because the billionaire was paying thousands, even millions of dollars to host events at Mar-a-Lago. Here's a guy that's just buying access, Butler said. So look, I'm trying to recall how many stories I did when this channel first started, just about how it took too long to get Trump in the legal system. I think I did multiple streams just going over every one of Trump's uncharged crimes and how close we were to the statute of limitations on them. This is why. Just like our own daily lives don't grind to a halt because other tragic events are happening around the world. Trump getting charged for the crimes he committed in 2015, it's not stopping him from doing crimes now, this afternoon. It's insane that he's walking around free right now. He has demonstrated he is untrustworthy, and these cases revolve around U.S. war secrets. Until we're damn sure that we have got everything back from him that we should have, until we are certain he hasn't been spilling his guts to every enemy of the U.S. that he can find to sell a ticket to Mar-a-Lago to, his ass should be in jail. You know, if you have somebody who is credibly accused of trying to murder their ex, and they're found on their hiding outside their ex's door, in between the date they're charged and the trial, it would not be unreasonable to take that person and hold them in jail until the trial, because they've demonstrated they don't have a respect for the law. They are dangerous to be left out. That's Trump. Except he's a conservative. He's thought of as rich, whether or not that's actually true. He may just be a pet to rich people. And he is a former member of the ruling class. And so they're terrified. They're just terrified to apply any laws to him, because that means laws apply to them, in theory. Here's what you can do about this. Just write Merrick Garland and tell him he's a disgrace for having taken this long to act after a coup was attempted in the United States. He's a disgrace. He should quit. He's unworthy of the job he has. Any replacement will be fine. He should quit. Don't waste your energy. If I'm giving you honest advice here, I've put that what you can do in the description just for my own petty blowing off of steam. Just because I wrote him earlier and said, you're a bum. You're not good at this job. You don't deserve it. You should do the decent thing and hand it over to somebody who's interested in protecting the American people. But that was therapeutic. It won't accomplish anything. Even if he did that, it's not going to make things better. It'll be about a week of headlines, and then no one will care. It is purely retroactive. But if you find that news like this makes you furious, and you're champing at the bit to do something, anything, that is what you can do. Let the courts handle Trump now. Frustrating as it is, we have to. That's how it works. We don't interfere with that. But if you feel the anger and you want to vent it somewhere, that's where you vent it. You tell Merrick Garland he's a see you next Tuesday, because he is. And we still have the right to say such things, if that's the way we feel. That's what I did, and I offer it to you too. Purely therapeutic. Let's see what the wicked community has to say. Saucy Sea Witch. I just put extra hash on my bowl. Yeah. That's also a fine way to deal with that. Well, Donald James X saying Jake is right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Conspiracy. Pitchforks Dragon. Conspiracy theory. Trump is 3 6-year-old boys stacked on top of each other in a suit. That would be the best explanation for his behavior that I have yet heard. Saucy Sea Witch, are we sure Trump wasn't reciting the screenplay of U-571? I would fully believe it. If you were to tell me that Trump literally mixed up classified documents with the screenplay for a Hollywood thriller, I would that's the sort of thing I would just expect to have happened. I would be more surprised if that never happened. The anti-corporatist, actually, I do believe that was the packet of documents that Trump had ran Paul and delivered to Putin. Yeah, maybe. Saucy Sea Witch. So what is happening with France anyway? Kind of nervous because usually they just sit back with their wine and croissants. I don't know. Aaron W., he got rich off recycling. Yeah, I'll take that. Of all the ways you can get rich, that's not terrible. Pitchforks Dragon, to be fair, it's Mississippi. We can sum it up. Mass grave found in Sundown Town behind police station. You know whose bodies, how, and why. Back to you, Jake. Depressing and accurate. And unacceptable. I'm genuinely trying to come up with a reasonable plan. A reasonable plan for dealing with that. But there is no reasonable plan of action that ends with any of those police officers still allowed to hold a badge. All of them should be in prison. Probably for the rest of their lives. Pitchforks Dragon. Oh, look at my steak has a Merrick Garland umbrella. Oh, look, my steak has a Merrick Garland umbrella. I don't get it, but I might later after I think about it for a long time. Wicked Foxy Dragon. He isn't that mature, I think, referring to the 3 6-year-olds. Yeah. Merrick Garland sounds like the useless, inedible bullshit they put on your plate at bad restaurants. Ah, I see. Oh, look, my steak has a Merrick Garland umbrella. Yeah, that's it exactly. He is the useless, inedible bullshit they put on you. That's a perfect description, Pitchforks. That is dead on. Donald James, all these names we call Trump, all the indictments, all the sexual assaulting, all of this doesn't matter if he gets reelected. I partially agree. Now, imagine this. Imagine he gets reelected, but it's before the verdict comes in on the coup plot. And then we have a packed House and Senate. It's packed full of progressives. Let's just say it's all Democrats. Or, what's reasonable? It's an impeachable majority. We have impeachment numbers. Well, then we can say the Supreme Court clearly said that this is a matter for Congress to decide. Not 6 months ago they said this. So now we're going to decide. He engaged in a coup. He is no longer the president. Done. I don't care that he got elected. I don't care. It's the Republicans' fault for putting him on the ballot. Shouldn't have. This case was active at the time. Look at that. Turns out he did try a coup. So, out he goes and into prison. Bye. That's plausible, depending on how we do in November. Vote, vote, vote. Even if Biden loses, we can still win. Vote. Saucy Sea Witch, oh God, yeah, similar to the residential schools for First Nations in Canada. Donald James X, yeah, that's true, Jake. I did not think about the impeachment part. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't want to oversell it because it's a long shot, but I mean, yeah, we got plans on top of plans for dealing with this son of a gun. Hey, speaking of, quick update here. Not sure how many folks were watching this, but I think it speaks to a change in society that you may be interested in. Gang, this is one where I actually walk the line a little bit. If you're not familiar, Ethan Crumbly is a kid who shot up. Well, I guess he's not a kid anymore. He's a young man now. But a couple years back, he shot up Oxford School in Michigan. He killed 4 people. An interesting twist on this is that immediately after he was arrested, his parents fled. They fled. They tried to escape to Canada. They were found in an art gallery. They were hiding out in their friend's art gallery. That's where the law caught up to them. They left Ethan, by the way, to fend for himself in the justice system. Abandoned him. Well, Dana Nessel, the Attorney General here in Michigan, charged these people. He charged them with, amongst other things, manslaughter because of how irresponsible they were with firearms and how much they neglected Ethan, who will spend the rest of his life in prison. If he develops a conscience, he will also have the burden of those 4 deaths to carry for the rest of his life, which will be utter misery. Well, as of today, both Jennifer and James Crumbly, Ethan's parents, have been found to be legally responsible in some degree for that school shooting. Here's the news.
I believe you've selected a 4-person. Who's the 4-person? You're the 4-person. Could you read the verdict, please?
Each count?
Sure.
Count 1, involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Madison Baldwin. Count 2, involuntary manslaughter as to Tate Meir. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Tate Meir. Count 3, involuntary manslaughter as to Hannah St. Juliana. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Hannah St. Juliana. Count 4, involuntary manslaughter as to Justin Schilling. Guilty of involuntary manslaughter as to Justin Schilling.
Thank you, foreperson.
A verdict in the trial of James Crumbly, the father charged.
All 4 counts. That was James Crumbly. Jennifer's was last week. Already decided. Sentencing will come later. This is where I walk the line. They can get up to 15 years in prison. I'll tell you this. I was rooting for a guilty verdict for both of these folks. Didn't really talk about it on this because that's not the focus of this channel. Is not to affect court cases generally, unless they ought to be had, and they aren't. But now's a good time to talk about it. Because, in my opinion, this speaks to the American people slowly beginning to take responsibility for the war zone our schools have become. Tends to be ultra-conservatives and the families thereof that engage in mass shootings, because I feel they have a poor culture. Conservatives do. They don't take personal responsibility for anything. They think guns are toys. They are not the responsible gun owners that they claim to be. I happen to know quite a few responsible gun owners, including people in this audience, who would be appalled at the way the average conservative handles a firearm. They leave these things laying around. They let children play with them. They make light of them. The result, commonly, Ethan Crumbly. He thought an answer to his problems was to take one of those guns that was lying around all the time, to use them to murder a bunch of his classmates. Finally, some responsibility is being insisted upon by the public, by we the people. We're saying you cannot behave like that. You cannot take your responsibility as a parent or as a gun owner so frivolously. You, the people that would abandon your child. At the same time, I'm not looking for the maximum sentence. Again, I'm not going to try to affect it in one way or another, but as I search my feelings here, this is not just a first offense for the parents here. This is the first time this has ever been charged. Generally speaking, my philosophy is to put people in prison as little as possible. Even though I have no respect for the Crumbleys. Even though I hope after they get out of prison, they fulfill their plans to get the fuck out of the country. Maybe change their names, shave their heads, pop on some fake mustaches, disappear. That's probably best. But I don't want them to rot in prison for 15. For so many reasons. One of which being I want a 15-year sentence to have its own value preserved. But also, I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think it helps more than, say, 10 years would. 7 years would. The point is to establish what has just been established. You have legal liability when you put children around firearms. Now the courts have finally caught up to common sense. A good sign. It's sad that we required the absolute worst case scenario to occur multiple times before we got around to establishing that. But the good news is now we have established it. Let's see what the wicked community has to say. Donald James X, show this verdict to the rest of the gun-toting country. Make them understand how serious this is. Yeah. And particularly, I think there's a special kind of irresponsible that happens in the U.S. in particular, where people who pretend like they own guns for protection, or they pretend like they own guns out of a principle, then treat the guns like toys. Let me put it like this. I have never spoken with someone who happily admits that they leave a gun on the kitchen table loaded. And most gun owners I have spoken with in my life would be appalled by such behavior. And yet, time and time again, when we look into the home lives of people who are around gun tragedies, we keep finding the same things over and over, and it's irresponsible gun ownership. It's people who treat guns like toys because, in my opinion, they think of guns as toys. It's a shame. But fortunately, it's not going to be tolerated by the adults any longer. Good. Saucy Seawitch, most parents here are pretty intense on their kids about proper gun use and call others out who don't follow the proper protocol. It's seen as a tool and not a toy, typically. Yeah. And that's good. And particularly if you wind up in a woodsy community, you tend to find more responsible behavior like that. There's a Michigan example I can give. Around Manistee, really, in the UP, where you're surrounded by actual, moose and what have you, where it's not inconceivable you might need a rifle. You also see people with, gun cabinets. And, and try to not sound sarcastic, but just really basic precautions. But it's when you get into I'm talking about the state I'm in, which is where this took place. When you get into the suburbs, such as Oxford, or such as I grew up in a place called Brighton. That's where you see people that they bought a gun and then they forgot about it. They'll drop $900 to buy a pistol, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah. Here, you want to check it out? It's not loaded. Oh wait, no, it's not. Oh, it is loaded." That kind of behavior, and they'll do this with a young kid in the living room watching them. It makes me furious. Let's move on to the news. I keep saying the same thing. Richard Hinckley. Lauren Boebert is a great example of irresponsible gun owner / parent. Photos of her little kids playing in a room with a rifle or whatever, just sitting there in the corner, leaning against a wall. Yeah. Wicked Foxy Dragon to the Baker's Dozen Cats. Moskowitz said that, and I think the statement was one I will never forget. Ooh, let me jump up to the Baker's Dozen Cats. And guns, not books. I like that. Although, truth be told, I'm not even as progressive as I am, to the point I don't even know if this is a progressive stance, to the point where I will happily look at repealing the Second Amendment and taking away the bare right to have any gun at all. I'm actually not for taking away all guns. I genuinely believe in like the necessity for a hunter to be able to, you know, shoot a beast that is coming upon their property to eat their little dog. It's just, god damn. Like, literally what you're describing, the leaning of a gun in the corner, is just, it genuinely makes me, like, anxious to imagine children growing up in such an environment. Let's get to the next thing. Ooh. You know what? I want to do the Tik-Tok story, but Foxy disagrees with me, and I don't want to miss an opportunity to have a debate. Like a proper debate. Usually because even if I don't change my mind, I walk away from these things with a better understanding of why I feel the way I do. And sometimes, semi-often even, I do change my mind, particularly when I'm talking to folks like you. So I might put that in the back pocket. But this one I definitely want to talk about. Gang, there is no way to say this without sounding paranoid. So let me acknowledge up top, I don't have any proof. I do not know what happened. But the reality is, we live in an oligarchy by any definition of oligarchy. That's the United States. Billionaires, the ultra wealthy, have influence on who gets elected and what policies they pass. Greater influence, one might argue, than you or I. That's an oligarchy. Another oligarchy you might be familiar with would be Russia, where Alexei Navalny, Putin's opposition, was just assassinated. Where his campaign manager was just beaten with a hammer. You know, similar to how Nancy Pelosi's husband was beaten with a hammer. Where Prigozhin, one of the oligarchs, was just assassinated after having defied Putin. Russia is another example of an oligarchy. Now in the U.S., when one of the oligarchs is in danger, somebody who was going to testify against them was just found dead by an apparent suicide.
Welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. Last week on Cold Fusion, we uploaded an episode on how Boeing went from an innovative engineering company to a corporate husk designed to enrich investors. It was greed at the cost of safety, and in the worst cases, it cost lives. Now, it seems like the chickens have finally come home to roost for Boeing. In just a week since the episode was published, a series of incidents have taken place that can only be described as alarming. From a wheel falling off a plane during takeoff and dish soap being used in a production facility to the death of a whistleblower. Boeing's 2024 is not going well. In this episode, we'll see what's taken place since the last episode, look briefly into some of the claims made by John Barnett, and figure out what's next for Boeing. Just a note, I am traveling at the moment and using a different microphone with no soundproofing, so apologies in advance. To Florida on a Boeing 737-900 witnessed, quote, bright orange flames shooting out of the plane's engine. Passenger Elliot Trexler described hearing a loud noise while in the air, quote, There was a loud explosion. There was no question in any of our minds that something bad had happened. That combined with the plane nosediving and seeing flames. Then, on March 8th, a Boeing 737 MAX, operated by United Airlines, carrying 160 passengers and 6 crew members, slid off the runway while landing due to a malfunction in the landing gear. In the very same week, a tire fell off a Boeing 777 shortly after takeoff from San Francisco Airport. It detached while the plane was in midair and fell to the ground below, smashing into cars in a parking lot nearby. And just a few days ago, at least 50 people were injured due to a sudden plunge on a Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner. This was during a flight.
Super quick, let's talk about neoliberalism. The reason neoliberalism doesn't work is because it is, in its essence, the idea that capitalism should be totally unregulated, as deregulated as possible, and that all things are best decided via the free market. However, the U.S. is fundamentally built on well-regulated capital, meaning that these punks need to follow safety procedures. They need to be held to certain standards of operation. But we have existed for the last 30, 40 years with both parties being full-on neoliberal, meaning both Democrats and Republicans. We always knew Republicans would do the worst possible thing in any given scenario. But in this scenario, also Democrats are doing it. They are rolling back regulations, ensuring that American safety standards have fallen below the rest of the world. Now, if you're on an American flight, you're in danger. If you're riding on an American train or an American train goes through your town, you're in danger. If it was built in America, it could have been built to harm you. As long as it's cheaper to harm you than not. That's what was done. This is neoliberalism at work. Boeing seems to have run afoul of some of the few rules that still exist to keep capitalists in check. Remember, they will kill you, your family, and everyone who knows your name if it makes them a nickel. They do not care about you. No one who owns one of these companies gives a solitary fuck about you, your family, really the suffering of any creature at all, human or otherwise. They do not care. They're the closest an atheist has in their belief system to demons. They don't have souls. So, with that in mind, there was a whistleblower that was in the middle of testifying. Here's what happened.
And frequency. In all fairness, investigations into these incidents are all ongoing, and we may find that some of the fault lies with the operators, as opposed to being a Boeing issue. And while there may be some truth to that, there's one person who definitely didn't believe that.
One, this is not a 737 problem, it's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is, back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work.
That was John Barnett in an interview with TMZ about a month ago, and he was talking about the door plug situation with Alaska Airlines. John Barnett was a 62-year-old former Boeing employee turned whistleblower. He worked as the quality manager for over 30 years, and after his retirement in 2017, he's been publicly sounding the alarm and sharing his concerns about Boeing's practices.
He was quality control. And note that what he was saying right then was contrary to what Boeing was saying. Boeing was saying it's not a Boeing problem, 737 problem. John here was saying, no, I worked for him. This is a Boeing problem. For example, says he, for example, they got rid of the people whose job it was to check that the engineers did their job and said, oh, nope, it's just now it's on you guys. You guys have to check yourselves. In other words, they did not give a damn about anyone's safety. Nobody on the plane, nobody in the area where the plane would crash. They sat down, they did the math, and they said it's cheaper for us to risk all these people's lives and occasionally lose a plane than it is to build these things safely. This guy was in court testifying to that fact. Was.
I say John was a 62-year-old man because unfortunately, just as he was about to testify against Boeing the next day, John was found dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. His lawyers only found out because he was a no-show for the lawsuit and wasn't answering his phone.
This morning, police in Charleston, South Carolina tell NBC News they are aware of the death of a former Boeing employee turned whistleblower. 62-year-old John Barnett found dead on Friday from what the coroner calls an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound.
As of the making of this episode, police are still investigating his death. Barnett has appeared on Netflix, TMZ, and has worked with other journalists where he continuously claimed that Boeing's practices were not up to standard. For example, in 2019, Barnett spoke with the BBC and revealed that workers were constantly under pressure and have been, quote, deliberately fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. He also claimed that there were serious problems with oxygen systems, the assembly process, failed tests, and overall mismanagement. He'd mentioned that he'd raised concerns with his managers, but no actions were taken.
And on and on. You get it. He was talking about this company's lack of safety precautions. Hey, maybe he did kill himself. Maybe he, the day before he was supposed to testify, he decided now's a good time. Maybe there was something going on in his life that we don't know about. Maybe. There is almost no amount of investigation that will make me fully confident that that is the case. So what I am going to ask you to help me demand, the South Carolina Attorney General, is that there be enough of an investigation that I can be confident that the government is not helping to cover up a murder. Again, I don't know what happened, but I have a sinking suspicion that what the plan is at the moment is for investigators to take the temperature, see that people aren't really paying attention to this, and say, well, he wasn't one of the ruling class. He was speaking out against the ruling class. Is that really a murder? Well, sure, we saw some evidence that this might have been suspicious. But if we choose to look into that, what might we find? We might find a whole can of worms that we don't care to look into because we have brown people to harass, because there's graves in Mississippi that need filling. And that's really what we're here for. That's my concern. I'm just advocating that we keep them on their toes. I'm just advocating that we inform them that we are watching. Now, I know this is Charleston police that are handling this. I say we go all the way up to the South Carolina Attorney General. Contact them directly and tell them directly, we expect a full investigation into this, a thorough investigation to this incredibly suspicious death. Links in the description. Let's see what y'all have to say. Saucy Sea Witch, Boeing has been shifty for decades. All of these companies are invested in war stocks as well. Yeah. The anti-corporatist. I mean, who was it that Trump put in charge of the EPA again? I do believe his name was Joe Camel. South Carolina Attorney General, didn't Lindsey Graham once hold that job? That's a great question. Lindsey Graham, AG. Oh. Lindsey Olin, I don't see it. Oh, yeah, I don't see it immediately, but you're probably right because generally you are. Groove Dragon. Saying the anti-corporatist is 1,000%, 10,000, is 100,000% correct. They are letting Boeing inspectors do government inspections of Boeing. Absolutely dog shit. The anti-corporatist, yeah, that medical examiner is not committing to that being self-inflicted as of yet. Good. Saucy Sea Witch, did they threaten his family? Good question. I don't know. Pinkerbell, think about your job and how working conditions have deteriorated substantially in recent years. It's no wonder we are seeing these major quality and safety breakdowns. Agreed. The anti-corporatists, they formed a public/private partnership to inspect things at the Boeing factory. Pathetic. Richard Hinckley, if A times B times C is less than the cost of a recall, we don't do one. Great movie, terrible reality. I'm trying to recall what movie that was. It was the George Clooney one. Yeah. All right, gang. You know what I want to do? I want to go to Rebecca Azor, the leftist mafia. Rebecca Azor. But I can't. Can't do it. And Matt Bender's not accepting raids. So how about this, gang? Let's go to the Rational National. Richard Hinckley, Fight Club. Oh, Fight Club. Okay. Well, there was another movie with George Clooney that covered the same thing more intensely. It followed around an insurance adjuster. Anyway, Fight Club was awesome as well. And, fun fact, you can see flashes of Tyler Durden before he first appears. If you're eagle-eyed, go check that out. Gang, I'm gonna wrap this one up. There's a non-zero chance that we'll do a call-in show later because I want to see if I can goad Foxy into a debate with me. At the very least, calling in and saying hi. And I want to talk about the TikTok. I think there's a lot of nuance there worthy of discussion. But I also want to watch Leftist Mafia. My understanding is the Rational National is accepting raids. So let's raid him. In the meantime, this has been WYCD Wicked that stands for what you can do. My name's Jake, and that's Pixel Jake, and we'll see you around. Wait a minute. Cosmopolitics is on with Dan? Is that so? Is that so? I'm intrigued. I freaking love Dan from the internet. Feel like that guy is, I vibe with. Dan from the internet. I don't see it. Oh, well. She said that she was going to be. I see. Oh, well. Well, unfortunately, I don't see their stream, so I can't. If they don't have it turned on, I can't turn to it. Anyway, bye.